Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 35 of our second session of Going Deeper, second session of the 21 days, which we're calling Going Deeper. My name is Poornima Kirby. Some of you may have seen me before during the first session. If you're new today, welcome. Thank you for jumping in with us. And if you've been here with us for a while, welcome back. I would like to remind everyone to go ahead and get your foot soak bowls ready because that's one of the first things we'll do. So you can just fill a dish pan with lukewarm water, throw in some salt, make sure you have a way to rinse your feet and dry them afterwards. Also, just a few reminders before we plunge in. You'll be able to request a one-on-one mentor at any point in the chat. So if you haven't done that yet and you're feeling like you'd like someone to connect with on your meditation journey, go ahead and ask for that in the chat. And last time on Sunday, we learned about the quality of having respect for your self-realization. And today we're going to plunge into a really exciting topic, which is the left Vishuddhi chakra here on the left side of the neck. And we're going to learn about how this tendency towards feeling guilty can rob us of our energy. And we'll learn about the antidote to that, which is really powerful when we're able to put that into practice. Today's agenda will include a short talk about this topic and a guided meditation and foot soak, as usual. We'll get to watch a lecture of Shri Mataji on video. And we're going to have some live music to enjoy, some slide guitar, which will be really soothing, and another meditation, and then a question and answer at the end, as usual. So at this point, I'd love to invite my fellow presenters to come onto the screen so we can introduce ourselves. Welcome, you guys.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So Ben is going to be playing some music for us, and Andrei is going to be guiding us through this world of the Left Vishuddhi and how to have an illuminated and joyful Left Vishuddhi. Would you guys like to share something beautiful from your day, if anything springs to mind?
Well, we survived it, which is really a positive beginning to this fantastic evening. And I would, it's actually really a good start here. And it was beautiful outside, sparkly blue sky and bright sunshine.
That's perfect because blue is the color of the Vishuddhi chakra flower, so very auspicious. How about you, Ben?
I'm echoing the same words. It was a beautiful day, and yes, we did survive it. Um, the uh, the guitar I'll be playing tonight is an Indian slide guitar, so um, it has a different quality than the Western instrument because when you're sliding into the note, you touch all those different vibrations that we have within ourselves in the different chakras or energy centers, and it you'll see the difference in the effect as we continue to meditate. You, at least for myself, my journey, I became much more appreciative towards classical music, Indian classical music, and I think as you kind of slow your mind down, you begin to enjoy that more, especially when you go into a meditative state.
Wonderful. I'm really looking forward to that. Um, cool. Yeah, something beautiful from my day was the ocean. I looked out my window this morning and the waves were like, with the white caps, like kind of wild. So I was like, okay, I can face this day because the waves are like ready to go. So, yeah, wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, Andrei. Take it away.
All righty. So friends, welcome, and let's raise our Kundalini and do the bandha. full attention and deliberation into it. Helps, as usual. And the bandhan all the way, hip to the hip. Very good. So our left Vishuddhi is one of the chakras which is really very strongly connected with everything. It has to do with our center hearts, with our hearts, with what goes on in here. And its main source of power is really our Muladhara chakra, the innocence that when has a good left side to move through, expresses outside through the left Vishuddhi. And that cheerful, unguilty, unattached by, to anything, unafraid of being caught into temptation, because it's kind of lives in a different world than the temptations. So that's what flows through a really free left Vishuddhi. And the connection with the heart is important, because everything has to be genuine. And the heart, it's not only a source of, sort of worldly affection, but that pure universal love that flows from the spirit, and that accompanies the all the reflections of the innocence, and that makes it for a circle of outside relationships which is rewarding, sweet, beautiful, and pure. And on the inside, obviously the thing that we've already touched on since the self-realization is that the left Vishuddhi has to, it's the organ where we store, or in the good times, helps us clear our guilt. And guilt is a bit of a funny word, but what it really means, guilt is one word that reflects a shopping list of things, and it's a combination of the fact that we're a little bit aware that we made a mistake, and that awareness, many times, it's pure fiction. We haven't made any mistake at all. we're just imagining that we were different than some imaginary perfection. And sometimes we have made a mistake, but obviously we haven't corrected it, either the root of it, if it's about one of our weaknesses or whatever, or we haven't corrected the consequence, and that might simply be heartfelt apology, or really fixing whatever needs to be fixed in this world, right? So, because if we would do that, we wouldn't feel guilty, obviously. We would actually feel good that we moved ahead. We also have to dispel this myth that the end of guilt is when we don't make mistakes anymore. There are very, very old scriptures in this world which describes how great saints and even the great gods make mistakes. And obviously they make mistakes for us to understand that shouldn't be the goal. We shouldn't be thinking like that. So we will always make some mistakes, but the point is they don't have to either really transform us in somebody who thinks oh, I'm doomed and there's nothing I can do about anything and I'm just going to dissipate in a blob of mud. Or on the other hand, to start reacting and accumulating this rock, which says that's not true. I don't make any mistakes. Everybody else makes mistakes. So, avoiding both of those and saying we all make mistakes and we just need to, it's just part of life, just like the body constantly has to renew itself from a day-to-day wear. Mistakes are day-to-day wear of living in this world. On that note, let's ask for the divine power to give our foot soak the energy to absorb all negativity and heat from our subtle system. So make a few circles and with this asking. And then we will gently plunge our feet into it. Without socks, it's much better. And we can look at Shri Mataji's photograph for 20 seconds. And while we do that, we simply take stock of where we are right now. Do we feel some coolness in one hand, in both? Are the thoughts completely stopping when we look at our photograph? Or there's still some chatter going on? Maybe we feel one of the chakras in the body that's a little bit asking for attention. Very good. So now let's close our eyes. And keep the left hand on our lap and put the right hand towards the Mother Earth or on the floor or on the ground if we're sitting on the floor. And this is the beginning of everything good. So from our heart, let's ask, Mother, please completely awaken and establish the divine child within us. Mother, please let innocence, wisdom, and purity flood all our chakras, all our channels. And oh, Mother, please set us free from our past. Be it from 5 minutes ago or 15 years ago. Please set us free from our past. Let's put the right hand kind of above the right ear. So that's the superego. That's where the left channel finishes and where we store the conditionings, all these ideas about what is the right thing to be done and all of that, most of which is mythical. Father, please dissolve all our conditionings in the pure light of the Spirit. Please help us stay always within the divine boundaries, but with no conditionings at all. Very good. Now let's go to the back agya. So that's the bump on the back of our head, and put the head back up. No, let the head rest in the palm. And here we will unapologetically ask for forgiveness. And by that we mean that when a little child asks for forgiveness from his mother or her mother, is because of the love that's reflected back and forth, and their desire to not disturb that love. So we don't want to feel apologetic or sorry, because we are human. And in all confidence and humility, enjoying the forgiveness of the higher power, it is one of the great privileges being human. No other creature can have this. So in our heart, in our own words, we should truly ask for forgiveness so we can feel it, that love that goes back and forth. Very good. So now let's go to the forehead and bend the head forward a little. And here, with great humility, we will enjoy the power of forgiving. Because once we really master this, a lot of the Left Vishuddhi will disappear by itself, all the issues with it. But they depend on each other. Mother, I forgive because I am forgiveness. By your grace, I am forgiveness. Very good. Now let's actually go to the Left Vishuddhi. So turn the head to the right a little and try to reach the spine with the fingers if we can, but we do what we can, don't stretch it. Mother, please give us the power to give up all guilt. Please help us see ourselves, accept ourselves, and correct ourselves. And please, please let us never worry about other people's mistakes and imperfections. Please give us the great power to always see the truth and stand by it. Let all our relationships be pure and beautiful. Very good. We can also give a little bit of vibrations to the Left Vishuddhi. If we're having trouble with the thoughts, we can always open our eyes a little and Shri Mataji's photograph. Often that helps a lot. Now let's get out of the foot soak and we'll put it just slightly on the side and rinse our feet and carry on. And we'll continue to meditate a little because after the foot soak is when things should be a bit clearer, a bit more balanced. And hopefully we can feel a couple of cool things. Okay. When the Left Vishuddhi starts to clear, there is this beautiful little nadi channel, goes from the heart through the Left Vishuddhi and into the Sahasrara, and that carries a special part of the joy and light. And we literally feel how that works. So let's invite from our heart a little bit to the Vishuddhi and up to the Sahasrara a few times. With both our hands out. And allow the attention to rise above the head. And see if we can follow a little stream from our heart through the Vishuddhi to the Sahasrara. which is a little stream of joy. It's so pleasant. We can sort of let our heart open more. That flow becomes more.
Very good. So in a state of silence, and we can watch Shri Mataji's talk and try to really let it go in. As we do that, the meaning by itself will cleanse us.
So we have to see for ourselves that what makes us guilty for small things is our own ego reacting against us and wants us to reconcile with what mistakes we have committed. Like some people feel guilty because they have said something they should not have said, or maybe because they have done something which they should not have done normally. May not be on a Sahaja Yoga basis, maybe something else also, very frivolous, like somebody spills, say, coffee, they feel guilty. Or somebody puts the knife on the other side, on the left hand side, then they feel guilty. I mean, such stupid things like that, which are regarded as norms in the society, and people start thinking that these norms are very, very important, as if they are something like a dharma, and you must maintain those norms. But these norms are man-made. Most of them are man-made. See, some of them are so stupid and so horrifying that I think in England I feel there are some which must be really completely squashed and finished, like shaking hands. It's a very bad thing, I think, is to do, is to shake hands with everyone. Because God knows what kinds of hands people are having, what kinds of vibrations they have. Now, when my husband has his reception, sometimes I have to shake hands with 700 people coming in and then 700 drunkards going out. So, this shaking of hands, I think, is a very, very bad habit. It's all right for Sahaja Yogis to shake hands, but for others, to shake anybody's hand is better to do namaste, though it might be some a very simple Indian method. But I think the best way is to say namaste, because shaking hands can cause lots of problems to human beings. And now with all these diseases coming up and all that, I think one has to be very careful about shaking hands. Worse than that is in France, I find, is like when you meet someone you must kiss, you see. It's the worst habit, I tell you, horrible. But they do kiss you all the time. If you go there, I had very bad shocks to begin with. You see, anybody would just get you, kiss you here, kiss you there, and start looking at the person. Now with the fear of AIDS and all that, perhaps they might stop all that nonsense. But there is no need to do all this. It's not a very good way of wishing anyone. It doesn't show any respect in both the cases. When you shake hands also there is no respect, and even when you kiss somebody there is no respect. But if you say namaste means I bow to you, namaste is I bow to you, is respect. And this is one thing we have to do, is to respect each other. But when we are not, then we feel guilty. And like that, you see, these all like thank you. If you have not said thank you to somebody, then we think we have done a big mistake. I mean, the amount of thank yous we do, get so much used to it that even if you see a statue, say thank you very much for your darshan. It goes on like that, you see, it's a bit too much. Too much thank you becomes a lip service or sorry. Nowadays, in our times, we used to say, I beg your pardon on the phone, but now people say, sorry, sorry, sorry. I mean, sorry for what? Just can't, that sorry goes into Left Vishuddhi. If you don't hear, it's none of your fault. Maybe the fault of the telephone, maybe the fault of another person. So, without understanding what is there to be sorry, just go on saying sorry, 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 feeling sorry for something is absolutely boring. And such a person can become extremely boring. Since morning till evening, he's saying, I'm sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, I'm sorry for this, and all the time feeling sorry for everything, you feel sorry for that person. So one has to be in a joyful mood. And doesn't matter if somebody doesn't say sorry, it doesn't matter. But some people can take a very big objection if you don't say thank you to them. It's a very funny thing is that I have experienced in England once. I was going out and John was there, John was driving the car, and my daughter was coming out of the house, so he left the door open and he just, as soon as she sat down, hardly took about 5-6 seconds. He could close the door and went round. But he didn't say thank you to the fellow who was standing behind. You see, they are supposed to be all very rich, cultured, educated people. So this fellow got out of his car and caught hold of his belt. And he wouldn't allow the car to move. When the car was moving, I couldn't understand what was happening. So I asked Johnny, stop the car, stop the car. I said, what's the matter? She didn't say thank you to me. This fellow would have been killed or something would have happened to him. Doesn't matter. He should say thank you. These are the funny norms that we have, so many of them, and sometimes we miss the point. Sometimes we miss the point because the whole thing becomes so mechanical. It is not mechanical if you say thank you. It's a way of just even expression, your smile, your just a gesture can say that you are thankful to people for what they have done. But it is a norm which is created since long. They have dropped out so many things, like they have dropped out their tailcoats, everything. And I think too much thanking and too much feeling sorry should be dropped out. Either you go to the left or to the right. So the best thing now is, if somebody does something for you, all right, just a smile. Sometimes say thank you, all right. But not all the time teaching us, did you say thank you? Like one child told me, I don't want to go to their house. I said, why? Because I have to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all the time. So children also somehow or other find it's very artificial. It becomes a lip service. And this lip service can go anywhere, and people start feeling very sorry for things like, I didn't send a Christmas card, so they feel sorry. Christmas card is not important. We must see why we have to send a Christmas card. Is to wish this person. Do you have that in your heart? Did you feel that from your heart? Once you start feeling from your heart, then you will never catch your left Vishuddhi. It's a very superficial way of avoiding the mistakes you have made. Now supposing I have not done something which I should have done. Sometimes it happens. And I feel it in my heart, just feel it. I should have done it. And if I have not done it, then it gets corrected. Not only that, but for a Sahaja Yogi, it works. So to feel it in your heart, otherwise whatever is superficial, you shouldn't worry. You shouldn't worry, you are all yogis. You must know you are all saints now. So you don't have to worry about small things. But one thing we have to ask ourselves, how do we get rid of our left Vishuddhi? And when you start asking this question, why have I got left Vishuddhi? It is the surplus of your ego, as I have told. So try to watch what you have done. Try to see what you have said. Why did you do it? And then face it. And next time don't do it. So you won't have the guilt. Because guilt is nothing but a stored up mistakes. And like going to a priest and saying, I'm sorry, I did this, I did that. And again doing the same thing. It amounts to the same. Because then you don't correct yourself. I think open the windows will be better. This one. I'll make it quite warm for you. Thank you. I am also English, I must say thank you. So this amounts to one thing, to understand what mistakes you have committed, what your ego wants to feel bad about it, and then do not store it up, face it up, and never do it again. Just be determined, I'll not do it again, that's all. You have to just say, I will not do it again, whatever it is. Face up to it and say that I will not do it again. That's the best way you can manage your left Vishuddhi. There is nothing like we are English, we are Indian, we are this. We are all universal beings. And once you accept this, suddenly you jump into the state of collective consciousness, into the state of Virat. Once Virat opens out, left Vishuddhi is finished. If you are a part and parcel of the Virat, how can you make mistakes? How can you be guilty? Because it is the Virat who takes over. He is the one. Supposing now in your hand something goes wrong, you don't blame your hand for it. What you blame is the body. The body has the problem, and the body has to look after. The body takes over. It comes, repairs, looks after, circulates, whatever it is, pains or whatever it is, the suggestion comes from the whole body. It's not that the only finger starts feeling guilty, it's the whole body. In the same way, once you jump into that state of Virat, into the state where you feel I am a part and parcel of the whole, Vishuddhi should drop out. Left Vishuddhi should completely drop out. It has no place. It has no place. How can you alone feel guilty when you are part and parcel of the whole? What's the logic? You cannot feel guilty. If you are part and parcel of the whole, then the whole takes over. And this is where you can cut down your left Vishuddhi very well.
We can keep our eyes closed. Allowing the beautiful music to continue to resonate within our being. We can leave our left hands open on our laps and place our right hand on our hearts. Shri Mataji mentioned that when our hearts are open and sincere, we're incapable of guilt. Because that joyful heart pervades our personality and we feel connected to the whole. So we can invite our Mother Kundalini to illuminate and open wide the doors of our hearts. The fun thing about having an open heart is everything becomes much less serious. We get to be joyful and take life as an adventure. And when we have that sense of fun, we just can't stay guilty. It just goes away. So we can welcome that sense of playfulness into our hearts. And we can raise our hand to our left Vishuddhi once more and confirm what we know to be true. Mother, I am not guilty for anything at all. As my heart is open, as I am the spirit, how could I possibly be guilty? Now we can bring our hand to this left side of our forehead, which is the culmination of our right channel, which is this Mr. Ego. who sometimes likes to balloon up. With our hand here, we can make a promise to our Mother Kundalini. Mother, when I make a mistake, or when my Mr. Ego gets too big for his boots, I promise to correct myself. I promise not to feel guilty. And even this promise we can do without getting too heavy or serious. The self-correction is an adventure too. We can kind of wipe off this part of our forehead or give it a little bandhan, a little bit of vibrations here. Maybe even a little tap, just to keep that ego in its jack in the box. And then raise our hand to the crown of our head. Massage the beautiful Sahasrara, which is our destination for every meditation. And let the hand float above our heads. If we feel that cool, we can thank our Mother Kundalini for loving us and guiding us always into meditation. Let's rest both hands on our laps. And let our attention remain there at the crown of our heads with the Kundalini. Just enjoying the silence that she brings us. to complete and sustain our meditative state, let's, as always, raise our Kundalini and put ourselves in Bandhan. Raising the left hand along the spine, with the right hand wrapping round, tying a strong knot at the crown of our head. A second time tying 2 knots. And the third time 3, one for each channel of our subtle system. Leaving the left hand open, the right hand arcs over and back 7 times. So thank you everyone for being part of this beautiful meditation tonight. We have a few announcements. On Thursday, we're going to learn about the right Vishuddhi and its qualities. When it's misbehaving, it can be the side of this chakra that causes us to maybe speak in a harsh way. But when it's nourished through our meditation, we actually become very relaxed on the right side. We don't react. And our words can be really sweet and inspiring and really powerful, but in a loving way. So I really recommend, if you can make it on Thursday, to join for that, because these two sides of the Vishuddhi really work in tandem. And when they're both healthy, your voice can be such a powerful instrument to love other people and awaken them and really have good, pure relationships with other people. So come on Thursday if you can. And just a reminder that this is our schedule. So we've got Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday for the official sessions. And we've got these beautiful foot soaks in between. And all the programs are recorded, so if you miss one, you can always watch it the next day. And as always, you can request a mentor. Hop into the chat and do so if you haven't yet. And you can also join the WhatsApp group. There's some really nice reminders on there, beautiful messages connected to what we're learning about each evening. And this website link is where you can go to find the recorded sessions and the handouts. And feel free to scan that QR code to go there quickly if you like. And we have a nice updated handout for the Vishuddhi chakra. So today we were learning about the left Vishuddhi. Next time we'll learn about the right. This is what the handout looks like. Gives you a sense of which finger it is, the pointer finger, and where it is on the subtle system, and the affirmations which you can try out in your meditations. And at this point, we're going to transition to a Q&A. If you'd like some personal attention, you can hop into a breakout room. You can ask more specific questions to your own experience, or talk with a Sahaja Yoga teacher in a little bit more of an intimate setting there. And those of you who want to remain here in the bigger room, feel free to put any questions that you might have into the chat. You can address them to the chat Q&A, or you can write to me, and I'll try and keep track of what I'm seeing showing up in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. But for now, I will invite Ben and Andrei onto the screen with me here. Welcome, guys.
Hello again.
Hello again. Um, and I'd love to ask you on this theme of the Left Vishuddhi. Sometimes we speak so much about what it's like when it's misbehaving, what the guilty side of it and saying, I'm not guilty. And I'd love to ask you what it is when it feels healthy, and if there's any experience that you've had uh, recently or maybe early on, somewhere in your Sahaja Yoga journey, where you felt your Vishuddhi functioning with the opposite of guilt, with the clarity that comes when the guilt is removed away.
Andrei, you want to tackle that one first?
Sure. I mean, in what I'm concerned, it was literally the physical sensation of a big boulder coming off your neck, like literally, all of a sudden you're free. You dropped the anvil so you can run fast. Like I don't know how to explain it. It was so palpable, and there is nothing like it. In fact, the great one of the great saints of India, Shri Kabira, has in one of the poems where he says something along the lines of the 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 special, unique pleasure of the life without guilt. He has an expression like that, and it is truly like the way it is, and such yeah, it's like everything is multiple times as shiny and pleasurable, and yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's a very, it's a childlike state. You see children like that. They're not, their attention isn't pulled towards any sort of man or woman. And that's something actually deep within Indian culture that's not in US culture. So, that brother sister relationship has been under attack for a long time in US culture. But the purity of relationships is really the joy of living. And I think that, or I feel that, when I'm clear, there's this absolute detachment towards, the opposite sex. You're just able to witness and appreciate and enjoy people in that respectful way. And it's, there's nothing like it except being a child. And I think we were all at that point as children. We all grew up in that, but then there's a certain cultural misguidance that makes us lose it.
Yeah, you bring up such a important point. We didn't talk about it as much today, but one of the qualities of the Left Vishuddhi, when it's shining and it's clear, is what you're describing, this brother sister relationship. And this feeling that we're part of this big human family, and that, like Shri Mataji mentioned in her talk, like we're all part and parcel of this whole. And it's such a fun feeling, because if you look at kids, like they are so playful with each other without necessarily like needing anything from each other. There's no agenda. It's just like, let's play.
Right.
And what's cool is, like, if you see them, it's like, okay, we do have that in us because we were all kids once. And if that boulder or anvil can like roll away, um, then uh, we can regain that state. It's kind of waiting for us underneath these societal norms that Sri Mataji was mentioning. Like for me, sometimes it comes across as like um, this like primness, or this feeling of overthinking what I'm going to say. And one of the things I love about kids is they have this dignity, but it's not based on like being proper or like using the right fork. It's an innate dignity and it's an innate boundary that they have. Um, and I feel like that happens for me when my Left Vishuddhi feels clear. Sometimes I notice it because I'm able to speak much more directly. Whereas when things are funky, I'll be like circling around and saying a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sorries and thank yous. And it's like this kind of sideways feeling. But when it feels good, it's just like, boom.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's directly between the heart and the brain,
Yeah.
the Vishuddhi. So there's a lot of times where it will create this sort of confusion if you're not clear, then you kind of talk in circles or can't be direct because there's this kind of thing that needs to be cleared out or dropped out, you know. So yeah, when you do feel it drop out, it's fabulous. You don't realize how much you're carrying till you know get to that point.
I would also like to point out the very fun fact that today is an absolute perfect day to be talking about the Left Vishuddhi because it's, well, obviously it's Tuesday, so it's the day of the first chakra. Today happens to be the spring version of Bhai Dooj, which is the celebration of the brother-sister relationship, which the more important, you know, the one that people, you know, a lot of the Indian festivals have their main version in the fall, but they have a less, you know, massive version in the spring. So today actually is Bhai Dooj of the spring.
Hmm.
And we just had Holi, which is both, how should I say, there is no real holy without, again, the purity of relationships. Secondly, it's about us becoming the virata all together, all in the same time, right? So it is really a perfect day to be talking.
That's so cool. I didn't know
That
that.
is, yeah, that's great. Wow.
One of the qualities of the Left Vishuddhi, it's um, the aspect of the divine that is placed there is presented like a lightning bolt, like this like crash of lightning, which I just find so delightful because I feel like the brother sister relationship is sometimes like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
people who are in a brotherly relationship to me, like sometimes I'll just say the thing that's like cuts to the
The
it's like
bone.
it's like the lightning bug. Like okay, you know, there's a little bit of that like directness that you can have with your sibling that isn't quite there in another context. Maybe you can't talk that way to a parent or something, but that there's this kind of breaking through the nonsense and just zapping things. I'm wondering if either of you have ever had that experience of either someone saying something that was kind of a lightning bolt for you that cleared out your Left Vishuddhi, or finding yourself doing that maybe in a situation at work or a moment where that lightning bolt just kind of came through.
Yeah.
I have a younger sister, so I have experienced that. You know, it's just like you said. I mean, they can see right through any kind of smoke and mirrors that you may put up and tell you directly what you're doing wrong, and you can't really get away from it. And you know, it helps you face yourself. I mean, that's those relationships are there for us to ascend, to become better, and to keep society in check. And the sister relationship absolutely does that. You know.
And it works only not only between people, but the lightning and power in the Left Vishuddhi allows us to burn our own troubles, and when some piece of negativity sort of is trying to get a hold on us, if we have accumulated a little bit of merit in that department, we can literally burn it off.
Hmm.
Mm.
and it's a special experience. I may say, it's not that I wish on anybody to have that kind of negativity that really requires full activation of this kind of power, but sometimes things happen. Right? but it is an extremely powerful.
Yeah. You know,
And yes, we've all been told off, of course.
what's cool about it is like that being told off, like then for me, I internalize it and then I have it available to me when I need to correct myself. Something just came to my memory. Maybe I've told this story before. You know, I've been meditating since I was a little kid and I've had my ups and downs with it and everything. And when I was a teenager, I was maybe pushing back against it a little bit. I would meditate sometimes, but maybe not as regularly. I wasn't foot soaking as often. And I went off to college for the first time. And I was kind of shocked by the whole atmosphere there. People were kind of just going wild.
Or collegey.
You know, and I was not prepared. I was like, what is this place? What's happening? I thought this was like a place where you study, not a place where you just go nuts. Um, and there was a meditation event happening in upstate New York. And a couple weeks in, this like car full of brothers, essentially, for me, Sahaja Yogi brother figures, were coming through and they were like, hey, sis, like, we'll pick you up and bring you to meditate. So I got in the car and one of them asked me, how are you? And I just started crying. I was like, it's really weird. You know, I was feeling sorry for myself getting into this sort of Left Vishuddhi thing. And my brother was just like, are you meditating? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should do that. And it was just like this cutting through this sort of self-pity I had gotten into. And we had such a great weekend of meditating together and uh, celebrating the first chakra, the Muladhara, is the Ganesha puja. And I just felt so much better. And I came back and I was Zoom ready to go. I was foot soaking every night in my dorm, you know, getting the bucket up and down the stairs to my dorm room and meditating every morning. And I just felt refreshed by this very loving but very direct correction from this brother figure for me being, are you meditating? And it was something I knew innately, but he was able to kind of cut through the fog. So that was one of my lightning bolt moments.
Mm-hmm. I think something recently that has been coming into my attention that relates to Left Vishuddhi, but also to the emotions in general, because we have these emotions to help us redirect when we're off, to know what's wrong. You know, you can feel it if we're sensitive and we're honest about it. But a lot of times, the emotion itself can cause you to feel that problems are bigger than they are. You know, we can feel so bad about having to do something. You know, we're really procrastinating or really not looking forward to doing something. But it's actually the emotion itself that keeps us from doing it more than the actual task we have to do. And I think that when we're more patient with ourselves, we're not feeling guilty. You know, a lot of negative self-talk that we tend to have can accumulate on the Left Vishuddhi. It's helpful to recognize that so that the tasks we have are really not as hard as we may think. It's just the emotions can kind of swell up and get in the way. And the more I confront that directly and see the emotion, the less power it seems to have.
Yeah. It's not about being emotionless, is it? Like our emotions have a place, our intellect has a place, but is it all in balance? Are those emotions enlightened and flowing? Is it integrated with the rest of our being instead of this boomerang back and forth or this pendulum swing from elation to, oh no, finding that balance and
Mm-hmm.
that integration is why we're here.
And keeping keeping in our attention some of the affirmations during the day. I think that tends to be the thing that a lot of us slip on, is that we are in these stressful situations or being confronted by things, and we have all this knowledge and we have these resources, but being able to apply it in the moment is so critical to maintaining your balance or not going farther in the wrong direction. So just to say in that moment or even after that I'm not guilty, I'm
Mm.
not condemning myself. It's such a powerful thing to know.
Well, a lot of that relates to this echoing relationship between our left Vishuddhi and the center heart, where
Mm.
to a certain extent, this is the same power under two forms, and there is no great left Vishuddhi with a shaky center heart, neither the other way around. The center
Mm.
heart can never be fully solid by itself, and with the left Vishuddhi being off. And obviously the center heart is the center heart, right? I mean, it's the center of power. And we are never at our best when when that's not really flowing well. So these are two sides of the same power, and they're related in such a strong way. Hence our the confidence in our ability to achieve something, to have that security that allows us to have the fun that Poornima was talking about during the meditation and all of that. Security is the number one requirement for fun, right?
Mm.
uh, Absence of fear. You put a bit of fear in there, the fun is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And I agree with you. I think just essentially having always a little scriptural streak of our awareness with us at all times. It's until we turn that on, it takes a moment.
Yeah. I love what you said about the center heart, because that's the center of our courage, isn't it? And I think in American culture, sometimes we take our relationships with ourselves and with each other quite casually. We live in this culture that values being cool. And sometimes the way we interpret being cool means to do everything halfway. Like you're always kind of leaning on your back foot, or you're never saying something full. You're never like committing fully to what you're doing or what you're saying, or even to being silent if that's what you're doing, because you don't want to be held accountable for having tried
Yeah.
something. And the center heart is the opposite of that. It's full courage, full security, full presence.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, something's coming to my memory of something that happened recently, something I'm learning related to that connection of the left Vishuddhi and the center heart, about speaking clearly and setting a boundary, actually. Um, so I'll share my example, but I'm curious if you guys have examples of this in your lives recently. I teach. It's one of the things I do. And for a long time, I wasn't very good at stopping people if they were misbehaving, or classroom management, as they call it. And recently, I've been teaching a lot of people who are much older than me. So I have this feeling of respect and wanting to be careful, let them have their say. But I was teaching a class last year, and there was a situation that arose where someone was speaking much more than the others, and it was causing an issue. It was causing an imbalance in the space. And previously, with a hesitant left Vishuddhi, I might have just let it go on and felt more and more stressed about it and let the atmosphere of the classroom kind of tilt off the way it should be. But somehow I was feeling good. I was just feeling connected. And so I spoke up quite strongly and just told this student who was much older than me, now please stop talking. I don't know exactly how I said it, but I managed to say it in a way where I don't think I hurt her feelings, but I also protected the needs of the other students. And it was such an exhilarating feeling because we all felt better, including her, including the other students, including me. And it felt like something had just come through and that directness had cleansed the atmosphere. And I got a glimpse of what it would be like to have that available at all times, even in a situation where my sense of, oh, they're older than me might have interfered. It just cut through the issue. I'm curious if you guys have had any experiences like that where you've been able to cut through with that clarity of your Vishuddhi.
Well, I mean, obviously, one can say a lot about the teacher role, right? Which, again, scripturally is the highest role, beyond parents, beyond anything, right? The teacher, the guru, is the ultimate instance. So when you're in that position, nothing matters out of the regular relationships, right?
Hmm.
So you know, when I was younger and kind of, well, before Sahaja Yoga and in the first little bit after studying Sahaja Yoga, I was fairly direct a lot of the time. Luckily, not too horribly off the mark most of the time. But you know, I have moved into a space where I economize very, very much. And often even if I don't say anything, somehow the energy changes by itself. And when you most of the time don't say anything, when you do say something, everybody pays attention. So this is something that I have noticed, and it has happened in, you know, work environments and meetings and stuff like that, where you know, when you never, you know, complain about anything or point fingers at anyone or whatever. So when someday you feel like something needs to be said, um, well, everybody listens.
Hmm.
So this has happened, and but I confess that I treat this power with extreme precautions in my old age. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. But
I'm thinking more about when I first started into Sahaj, and I had a lot more sarcasm coming from American culture. And it wasn't until much later that I realized, or I found out, that your right Vishuddhi, you know, where that sarcasm can be, where that harshness can be, or, you know, making fun of people and things, is actually directly related to the Left Vishuddhi. And if you're feeling guilty, you tend to be sarcastic. So a lot of times the people who are obviously overly sarcastic are actually the ones that feel the worst inside. They feel guilty. So it's a big sort of facade that they put up to deal with it. And the less sarcastic I became, the more I felt more confident, because you don't actually feel good inside being sarcastic, because the expression of love is so much more fulfilling than any kind of cheap remark. And there's no intelligence in a lot of it either. in sarcasm.
Mm.
So totally. I know very well of that where you are, what you are talking.
Yeah, that's it's a really important point, and it's difficult actually to talk about the Left Vishuddhi without mentioning the Right Vishuddhi as well, because they have to be in balance with each other. I'm really glad you brought up this point of sometimes those when we're speaking most harshly or sarcastically or um, even talking too much, as opposed to, like you were saying, Andrei, having the peacefulness to be able to sit back and watch and only speak in the judicious moment. It can reflect that someone may feel very bad towards themselves, and so it's an overcorrection into the right Vishuddhi. And one of the things Shri Mataji mentioned is how lovely it is to be, how important it is to be pleasantly placed towards yourself. And I wonder if you guys could talk about that a little bit more. Because I think in this culture, sometimes we get a lot of messaging that is a little bit glib about uh, self care or treat yourself or spoil yourself, or this kind of almost coddling way of talking about yourself, which can be a marketing strategy. So can you distinguish or talk about what this means to you to be pleasantly placed towards yourself?
Well, like what I can say is that, when I first, because usually Shimadaji uses this phrase in the context of giving self-realization.
Yes.
So first, right at the beginning of Sahaja Yoga, and that's important because there's that is truly the moment when we don't do anything, right? That the divine has to do it all. So we really have to stop the idea of doing. That's a crucial moment where we got to get out of that mood. So on one hand, and secondly, when I heard her say that, I thought about that for a very long time, about what exactly does that mean, and by very long time I mean years. Right? This was on my mind for a long time. Pleasantly placed towards yourself, and I'm not even sure that I sort of can totally explain it in English, so to speak, right? But again, it's a bit easier in the context of self-realization when you're it's really about having a positive expectant mood, if you wish, right? Somebody's going to come with an awesome cake, and you got to be in the in good position to sing the birthday song, right? It's that kind of a mood. But in general, there has to be a little bit of that in general, and that's something that I think we have to remember for the long run. This idea of trying to still do what we have to do, and I'm talking in Sahaja Yoga. Once we have self-realization, which is purely divine work, then we don't have to do a little something too. But while we do that, we still kind of have to be in that position, and it's it's something to meditate on. How did you take that?
Me or Ben?
Yeah, Poornima. Yeah.
First of all, I love the birthday candle metaphor that you said. What came to my attention when you said that was this quality that plants have, or like sunflowers have, where they're always pointing their face towards the sun. And it's it's a very innocent way to go through the world, isn't it? To just point yourself towards what's joyful and to be ready to receive joy. And uh, I remember hearing a talk of Shri Mataji. Actually, when I was in college, I had 3 MP3s of Shri Mataji's talks because we didn't have, YouTube wasn't such a
Very
thing.
extensive stuff that there is not.
So I listened to those 3 talks over and over and over. And this one talk, she described a lot about guilt and how people will hide themselves like a plant that hides itself from the sun because it's like, oh, I don't deserve it. And she was saying how foolish that it, like, why not receive the sun, receive the joy. So that uh being pleasantly placed, it's literally like, what is your placement in relationship to that which nourishes you? Are you hiding yourself from what nourishes you, or are you open to receive it? I love sunflowers, so that's an image that inspires
I
me.
think we all love sunflowers.
Yeah.
So it's like, I actually dressed up as a sunflower as a child for Halloween. Had little leaves, and so it's a little image that's like, okay, open yourself, open your hands, right, to receive the cool breeze and just the way a flower receives the sun.
Yeah. Pleasantly placed. I think it's coming to the realization of the divinity, the divine qualities within us, and respecting those qualities, because when we don't recognize them, then we lack a kind of honor to ourselves, you know. So the more we come into that, and even objectively treat ourselves as this soul, this person, you take time to do what's best rather than just kind of do things haphazardly, you know.
Yeah, I love that actually, because I think sometimes, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but in sort of teenage girl culture, there can be this habit of really insulting yourself. And then the other girl's like, no, no, you're so pretty. This kind of back and forth thing that I grew up with and encounter less as an adult, but it's still there. And something that occurred to me, when I would hear other girls saying about themselves something so harsh that I know they would never say about any other person. It's like, how can you speak that way about yourself when you didn't create yourself?
Mm.
It's like you wouldn't speak that way about someone else's work of art. We wouldn't feel like we have the authority to criticize um, that. And because we're all created by the divine, we kind of hold ourselves in trust. We, like, here I am. I'm in charge of taking care of this person called Poornima, and Ben takes care of Ben, and of course we take care of each other as well. But I, I there's a certain step I wouldn't go beyond. I wouldn't, insult this being or treat her lightly, um, because I didn't create her. So, you know, why would I say such harsh things about this person just because I happen to be her? You know what I mean? Um, and I think that's where the correction comes in, that we can correct ourselves and we can be strict with ourselves, but it's always out of love. And it's out of a sense of honor for the spiritual being that we are, that we don't treat ourselves casually, but we don't treat ourselves harshly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this seems like a good summative point, isn't it? So.
Yes, I realized I completely forgot to check if anyone was asking questions in the chat, but I don't think they were. So Cool. Yes, this is a good place to land. Um, Thank you for this conversation. I learned from it quite a bit, actually. Um, so for whoever's here, I think the breakout rooms will stay open for a little bit longer. But for now, I'll say namaste.
Namaste.
Good night. Have a lovely rest of the week.
You as well.
You too.
Good night.
Good night.